Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Power Book 3 Raising Kanan, Episode 5. This is an episode that 50 Cent hyped up relentlessly going into it. He kept saying that this is when people were going to get really on board this show. But were we kind of already on board this show? Like, we didn't really need any further hype for that.
No, I certainly didn't. I was in on episode one. It's only been getting better since then. Was this a big episode? Sure, yeah, there was a pretty big reveal in it, but all the episodes have been really solid so far. So, 50, you hyped up a good episode, but they've all been good.
Well, we're gonna talk a lot about everything that happened in it, but there's no sense in sort of just beating around the bush here because the obvious thing that I think a lot of us are just sort of like over right now is the reveal that Malcolm Howard is actually a lot more important to this story than we first thought.
Yeah, so we saw him decide that he was going to sort of go after Kanan to be able to find out more about what Raq is doing and picked him up over a fight, which was kind of ridiculous, but he was looking for a reason to pick him up, and he did. And then it came out how old Kanan really was. That he was born in 1975. Me too. Me too. We are the same age.
There you go.
Me and this fictional character.
Yeah, thankfully you're doing much better than Kanan now is. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, so he got picked up, and then Howard figured out how old he actually is, and that his father was incarcerated at that time, that there was no way for this other man to be his dad, and it made him realize that Howard himself is Kanan's dad. And he went to go have this confrontation with Raq, who basically said, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see you. We're not going to talk about this. You got to go.
I like a lot of different things about how they put this together, because when they first sort of showed that scene breakdown with like the really old school computer, which by the way I very much appreciate. I remember these days when all you could do on computers were like green and white lights.
Yeah, I remember them too. I was around it. I was the same age as Kanan, so I remember this as well. We actually had to stop it to really look at what he was looking at. My eyes are not used to those old computers.
No, and at that point it was really exciting because then we were kind of going into the rest of the episode being like, okay, well, obviously we don't know Kanan's real father now, and I liked how they did eventually give us a little bit more context. There weren't any conjugal visits. There wasn't anything else that sort of indicated anything there, but
they totally got me. They got me. Even as Howard was putting the pieces together, like he was figuring out that this person wasn't Kanan's dad, but it wasn't clicking for me that meant that Howard was.
No, I was in the camp, but I was in my head near the end of the episode being like, how old is Unique? Because that would feel like a very, I don't know, sort of Romeo and Juliet thing where these two were constantly battling with each other, but had this, but I was sort of thinking, is Unique old enough?
Yeah, Unique seems like he's kind of young.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it could fully line into all of it, but when it wasn't until like after maybe 30 seconds of Howard showing up that it started to actually click with me.
Yeah, as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh no, this is where we're going with this. He's not going to show up at Raq's house in the middle of the night unless it really had something to do with him.
Yeah, and okay, this is why this makes sense to me now looking back at it. Omar Epps is the biggest star on this show, and I was thinking a lot these past few episodes. It's like, okay, so they hired the biggest name actor on this show to come in and basically play the Raising Kanan version of Cooper Saxe, who everybody just sort of hated on Power except for me. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and now there's so much more with Detective Howard, because not only does he now know that Kanan is his son, we also saw that his diagnosis and his health condition is getting way worse. There was no matches for him. Now he's going sort of into the donor bank to find out if he can actually get a bone marrow match to be able to live. And he said straight up to the doctor, listen, like, do I need to be getting my affairs in order? And she's kind of like, I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say that.
I'm going to go ahead and throw out a fishing line here because this is where I think we're going now.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it seems like there may be another match here potentially named Kanan.
That's right.
This is going to be what really obviously sucks for Howard is if it turns out that somehow Kanan is a match, and I don't know how he's ever even going to get the information to know that unless, like, Kanan and Raq, like, agree to it. But then it's like, are they even going to want to help him because he represents the other side of this battle?
But clearly there was some kind of relationship or some sort of something between Raq and Detective Howard at some point. So, I mean, could she throw out a literal lifeline for him? It's possible, but he's probably going to have to owe her big time.
And then that kind of leads into what would that look like? Because this is the thing with this show is that I have been conditioned through the first 4 episodes to expect like something terrible to either happen to Rock's crew or to Unique's crew. And this is really like the first episode where there wasn't like some enormous calamity affecting one of the two of them at the end of the episode.
No, the only thing we saw was that Raq ended up, it looks like, sent one of her crew over to Unique's. That is my guess.
Yeah.
She pulled him over into the car and was like, hey, we need to talk. And then all of a sudden he's over with Unique's crew being like,
Yeah.
hey, guys, I want to hang out. And so I think she sent him over. Obviously, Unique was also kind of like, you're just going to burn Raq like that? You're just going to give up on her and come over like that? Okay. Question mark.
Maybe this is Scrap's punishment here because like you get into a public fight here with Kanan and we get it, he's challenging you in front of other people.
Yes.
You got to stand your ground.
Yes.
But then Rock still doesn't have a right to be, she's not going to be happy about it after the fact. She's still going to be upset. This is her son.
Yeah. Okay. We also need to talk about Lou for a second because this whole ending,
yeah,
which was so good. It was like this reveal with, Howard and Raq and the age of Kanan and everything that's going on right in the middle. They're just like cut in this scene of like Lou and Jessica getting it on. I was just kind of like, this is one of the weirdest cuts I've ever seen in a show where it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
It doesn't fit to the story at all. I was just like, why are we over here watching this? We are in the middle of something that is building that is going to be this huge reveal. This huge reveal is going on. Then we're like, oh, you just need to throw a little bit of this going on. I was just like, oh no, just don't. This was such a good scene.
Okay.
Not that. The Howard scene.
Yes. Okay. This is the thing with it to me is that, okay.
Even earlier in the episode.
We already knew that they were into each other. We already saw them in a romantic capacity. It's like this, we can assume that all this is going on. It felt like, I don't know, the Starz executive guy who is like, we need some love scenes in every episode.
Yes, was like, just, jam this in here at this point. That's what she said. And that's how it worked out.
It was so, gonna recover from that. It was so just completely unnecessary.
So weird. It did not fit. And it did break up a bit of the flow of what was going on with the more important stuff. So, Starz, I know you executives are watching this video. Please just stop it. We get it.
Yeah.
We don't need to have these scenes every single episode. This was a really good episode that was filled with a lot of important stuff that was going on. It just wasn't needed.
No, and also I like to kind of come out of episodes with like defining moments for characters, and to me, like the defining moment, with Lulu in this episode, it's not him, getting it on with Jessica. It is him finding a way to get Jukebox into the studio and really going in there and flexing his muscles on people.
And also his relationship with his brother, Marvin. Like that whole fight at the beginning and sort of getting to know them as brothers and even learning sort of how old everyone is. Like that Marvin is the oldest sibling in this group. I just didn't know where everybody landed in the sibling trio here. So to see the two brothers coming together, obviously Marvin really screwed up, and his siblings were gonna let him know about it. But seeing that fight between him and Lulu, it was, I think, really important just to build up what this relationship is and how they are together as brothers,
Yeah.
but also how they are together working together as brothers, because of course it's more complicated when you're family and you're working together.
Yeah, it's sort of one of these things where I think when the chips fall, they're going to have each other's back. But I think until the chips fall, they're going to spend a lot of time just fighting with each other, whether it be verbally or physically. I love the scene with Rock and Marvin earlier on in the episode where Marvin is trying to quote unquote tell the truth about what happened to the stash house, and he is the worst liar I think I have ever seen in my entire life, and I love every single second of it.
I also really like the way that Rock handled it, where she found the shirt, she left the shirt, she just wanted to see, is Kanan gonna come clean about it?
Yeah.
Days pass, okay, he's not going to, well, now we have to have this conversation. I like that as a mom, she gave him enough time to come and talk about it. And she gave Marvin enough time to come to talk about it, and of course they didn't.
No, it's another testament that everybody in this world, no matter what book you're talking about, everybody's got to have a secret. Everybody's got to try to have something because knowledge is power. Except when that knowledge comes back to bite you in the butt, Kanan. You were still very young. You were still a teenager. I don't know why you thought you could get away with this.
Speaking of getting away with things, Kanan ended up calling Symphony to come get him from the police station, and then asked him to keep the secret, which is, of course, kind of a crappy thing to do. It put Symphony in a really bad spot. He handled it the best way he could to say, listen, I won't offer up the information, but if she asks me, I am absolutely going to tell her.
I think that is the best way that he could try to navigate this to the best of his ability. Because clearly he's building something with Kanan. We saw,
I like it.
Yeah, I like their relationship, and that scene at the end of like one of the classes where he, Kanan asks Symphony, "Do you really like my mom?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then Kanan's just like, "That's cool." And then he leaves. It's like that is the "I like you too," except Kanan's not going to be vulnerable enough to actually say that.
I like where this relationship is going, and if he turns out Symphony to be a cop or something like that undercover, I'm going to be really mad by the end of this season. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, I'm going to be mad for a totally different reason. I'm going to be mad when they kill him because the symphony's going to be over soon, folks. I have some very bad news for everyone on that account.
I'm just glad that they're giving him something else to do besides being Rock's boyfriend, that there's actually something else that's growing here.
Yeah, it feels like I don't know, it feels like I understand why he's into her. I understand him wanting to be a part of the family. He just brings a different energy, like a different style to this show and its world.
Okay, before we get into Jukebox, if you are enjoying this video, hit that subscribe button. We are here every week talking about Power, so yeah, hit that subscribe button and stick with us.
Thank you guys so much for your support, your comments, your likes. This has been a very, very fun edition of the Powerverse to talk about.
Except for this. Yeah. This is a very difficult, crappy, awful part to talk about because we've been pretty clear that we are both fans of the Jukebox storyline. I love it. It's actually my favorite storyline that has been going on. I just love that she's still at that stage in life that we all are when we're very young and we've got, stars in our eyes. We're in love. We want to make music. We're being creative. There's all these wonderful things going on. And then everything happened to fall down on her head.
This was sad. I think we both were sitting here a lot these past few weeks and thinking, okay, either they're going to kill off Nicole or they're going to have something else really terrible happen to Nicole. And in the end, it ends up they're together in Nicole's bedroom, Nicole's parents.
Oh my God. As soon as they pulled back to that bigger shot where the door was, I was like, oh no, guys, you gotta sit up. You gotta sit up. Yeah. Because no parent wants to walk in on their kids at that age making out. You know that they're doing it. It's the age where everybody is experimenting and falling in love and having crushes and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. And parents have to know that that type of stuff is probably happening. I'm actually surprised that Nicole was allowed to have her door closed. And I understand that they probably were thinking, oh, it's another girl in there. Nothing
Yeah.
could be happening. But I mean, in my household, and I mean, I grew up in a different household than Nicole. I'm a mixed person. My mom was a single mom. And no matter who was over, my door was open. It didn't matter who was in my
Yeah.
room. It was just until I was a little bit older, she just wanted to know that everything was okay.
I think it's a good point, and I think it's something where I feel like they took a little bit of creative liberty here because they probably, I guess, just wanted to have the big reveal with the door opening because, yeah, it's a little bit strange. But of course, the moment the door does open, we see the mother react in the most racist and homophobic way possible.
Yeah, Jukebox really got slammed from every single front on that.
Yeah.
First, she was dealing with racism. Then she was dealing with homophobia. Then there was that moment that she looked at Nicole and she knew that that relationship was going to be over and she was dealing with pure heartbreak.
Yeah. And you could see that, Nicole wanted to help her. She wanted to do
And
something.
she tried.
Yeah, it's just there's just nothing she could really do. She's so just very, very young. She's a part of this very particular world where clearly she doesn't have any control over her own life. Her family is clearly racist and homophobic, and they're finding out, all this different stuff about their daughter all at once. And it's a very, very difficult position for Nicole to be in. And it gets heartbreaking for her too. But this is Jukebox's story. And it's just like, that was shattering seeing her walk away from that house.
That moment that her mother threatened to call the cops
Yeah.
on her for assaulting her daughter was one of the most disgusting moments I've seen on TV. It was just such a straight up racist moment from that mother that I just wanted to reach through my screen and scream at her. It was just
Yeah.
it was so awful. Like, it was awful. My heart was breaking for Jukebox, just like over and over and over. Like, the hits just kept on coming from that mother.
Yeah. It was barbaric. And this whole exchange, I think we've wondered for a long time, how does Jukebox sort of end up being the person that she is? And I think probably after this sort of heartbreak where she had someone who fully believed in her, who sort of was completely separate from her life, it was an escape. I think now, I don't know if she's gonna open herself up in the same way really ever again.
I don't know that I would either. I mean, that whole situation was traumatic. It's something that a lot of people don't bounce back from, and they do close up. And we know that later on, Jukebox is very closed up. Is this the only incident that's going to have her close up? Probably not. I'm sure she's going to end up having to deal with a lot of other stuff going on through her life. But I'm sure that this is the first time that sort of her heart is just actually going to be closed.
I think, and this is all part of, I think, the difficult sort of line that Raising Kanan as a show has to toe, because it's a really, it's a really entertaining show, but it's a really heartbreaking show. We're watching characters who, we already know Kanan's dead. We already know Jukebox is gone. There's a lot of people we don't know about, but, Malcolm Howard, his health condition is not exactly looking great either. We know what's going to happen to a lot of these people, so they have to find a way to, get us really invested in them so that when they do die later on, it's even sadder than it was when we were watching Power the first time around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting after Raising Kanan is all said and done.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just the first season. I mean, when it is at its series finale, to go back and watch Power, the original series, and sort of see further how we'll know how Jukebox got to where she got to, and then to see how she is as an adult through those eyes.
You know what one of the best things about this episode was? No Tony. Maybe she's gone. Maybe we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, like they've had a lot of characters to balance. No real Davina this time around, but
No, but there was the mention from Jukebox that Davina might be the person who ratted out everything about the whole stash house. I mean, that didn't really go anywhere, but
no.
it was kind of strange.
It's it's clearly something where I think they just want to build up a lot of paranoia in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, we know at least Davina's connection to Buck. That's going to bring Unique
Yep.
around, so
Yep.
we'll see a lot of that play out. But for now, we'll turn this over to you guys. What did you think about Power Book 3 Raising Kanan episode 5? Was this the, total jaw drop, shocker, 50 Cent hyped it to oblivion episode that you thought it was going to be?
It was good.
It was good. So let us know and subscribe to the channel for more Raising Kanan discussions. Give this video a like. Check out our coverage of Animal Kingdom and a whole lot more. We'll see you here next time.